that I can, or my neighbors don't know how to recycle, so I'm trying to teach them how to recycle. But the reality is the majority of the stuff that comes in single-use plastics is not recyclable. So really it's all about the folks that are, or the corporations that are making the single-use plastics, the producers, they're producing it. And so how do we get to the point where we can tell these people, no, you can't make this anymore. You can't make it anymore, so that the folks can't purchase it in the first place, and that's kind of the mess we're in, because we can learn how to recycle all we want to, or we can adopt a zero waste lifestyle all we want to, but it's way more difficult to get millions of people on board with that than it is to get the single entities to stop creating the stuff in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how they very craftily early on, I mean, and this is something I just learned in like the last year or so, especially there's this amazing podcast called Reorienting Within the Plastic with this researcher, Max Lieberl. And it's just that companies realized they needed to get people to, because people were keeping plastic things back in the 50s. They were staying in people's homes, and the companies realized we have to promote pushing them out of their homes so that they can keep buying them. And then they really got behind the whole recycling and keep America clean, so that accountability for the bottle or the can was on us and on cities.
Mm-hmm.
So all these companies, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, gets to externalize the costs of what happens to that plastic bottle when they make billions,
Yeah, they're actually the ones that are the largest sponsors of cleaning up the ocean. They spend a lot of money on sending people out to the ocean to pick up all the plastics out of the ocean, so that they can continue to keep producing the stuff.
Yeah. Hey, and just so people, oh, go ahead, Laura, were you going to say something? Oh, and just so we'll get started with the actual IRP info in a few minutes. Patty O'Keefe is coming on from the Sierra Club. I had her come on at 6:45 because last week we had about 20 people here, and it took time to do intros and just kind of connect a little bit. So we've got a few extra minutes, but just so you know, we will be getting started with the IRP stuff in a couple minutes.
Thank you, Kylie, for your endorsement in the paper today on the Enbridge thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
Christelle was on there too.
Lots
With
of-
MN Renewable Now.
Recognize lots of you on there, Nina, and all kinds of people. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Do you guys all get that, any information from that thing called 4Ocean? They go out and they pay a living wage to people from Bali, and they go out and they just bring in tons and tons of stuff off the ocean. And they recycle it, some of it, into bracelets and things they sell then for donations that you can wear, and it's a pretty cool thing.
I have mixed feelings about that kind of thing, John.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings because I feel like well, yes, it's good to pay people a living wage that need it. It's good to get it out of the ocean. I don't know. Somehow it feels like it's almost like making it okay. Because look, we're paying people to take it out and make pretty things with it. And I just feel uncomfortable with that. And I'm not saying I'm right or they're wrong, or I just have mixed feelings.
I'd look on their website and see what you think of them. Certainly, what you're saying, it could be done wrong. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But go on and see what they got. They were making, masks and stuff like that. And they were genuine enough in what they were doing and direct and honest about it. I'm not sure it works perfectly by any means, but. And
actually most of the plastic in the ocean is very, very tiny, and there's nothing you can make from it because it's broken down by the time it's, we see, I think the images we see a lot of times are the bigger pieces floating on the beach, and that's there too, but most of what's in the ocean is very tiny and won't even fit in those trawlers.
Yeah.
Well, and at some point, not immediately, but at some point, those bracelets all end up in the waste stream also, I would imagine.
Right.
And a thought I've had too a lot of lately is about all the automobile crashes and all those cars being plastic, and where is all that plastic going?
Yes.
Most of that stuff goes into auto dumps. I mean,
Yeah,
they just,
landfill, yeah.
they
Like-
either recycle it or remake it into auto parts, or they sell it if you go to your local junkyard, but otherwise they bury it.
Right,
I mean,
out in Lakeville. There's a big article about that. And in the New York Times too, about the ocean, just this week or last week. Yeah.
your earlier comments about being called citizens, I just realized a while back that people who are part of the British Commonwealth are still referred to as subjects.
Right.
They're
Right.
they're not called citizens. They're called subjects.
Wow.
Which is a really unusual title. I mean, I wouldn't want to be called a subject. I'd rather be.
No.
Um,
Hey,
just
Laura,
be-
how did you hear about this event?
Facebook.
Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
It's good for something, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Don't ban all of social media right now.
No, I know. I
Need
know.
something. Yeah.
As long as they don't steal my purchases and make it into advertising, Laura.
Oh, they do.
I
just-
my motto, I'm going to make a bumper sticker that is the more advertising I see, the less I want to buy.
Right?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Just looking at. Well, I'm going to drop a link into, I love this. I share this podcast on, and we'll just give Patty like a couple more minutes to hop on here and keep talking about plastics. But this woman who is interviewed in this podcast runs a feminist anti-colonial plastics research lab in Newfoundland. And it's so fascinating about just how entrenched plastics are, how the, kind of recycling got going, how we have to shut off the tap, because recycling isn't going to be the answer. It's really fascinating. I've listened to it like 3 times and I keep getting more and more stuff from it. And Christelle, like you were saying something about like what we find in the ocean is this single-use stuff. And she said in all her research, she's never found like a plastic pacemaker or, a hearing aid, a plastic hearing aid on the beach.
Yeah.
It's always, plastic water bottles and, the sachets that, are really big in like Indonesia and poor countries where they can't even afford to, they can't afford to buy like even a plastic bottle. So they buy everything in these little sachets that are trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wrappers. Just little things that just are used one time just to hold your good until you consume it. That's really what they're finding. It's not like, there's a lot of things that are made out of plastic that have a long lifespan that we use for a long period of time and probably passed down. But really what's being found in the ocean and our waterways are just single-use stuff. So how do we get rid of the single-use stuff?
Right.
Exactly.
This scientist said, this Max Lieberman, she said, she would have given single-use plastics the biggest design fail because you're making using the strongest material for the shortest lifespan of a product. And like, that's just such a bad approach, to design. And the cool thing about sorry, Catherine, go ahead.
Go ahead, you first.
Well, just the people, because Christelle and I had screened the story of plastic a couple times this summer via Zoom, and the hopeful thing is that, like the communities and the culture, and India and Indonesia and the Philippines, like it hasn't been that long since they were using these single-use plastics. Like people's parents and grandparents remember not using that. So the culture is still there, even for us as well. The culture is still there to reuse your milk jug and reuse your shopping bag and, things like that. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, two things though, going back about 3 minutes ago when you were talking about that program you were watching or video or whatever, the conference or whatever, is there a way you could send us a link to that so that we could view that?
Do you mean the podcast or the Story of
Yeah.
Plastic movie?
Yeah.
I put a link to it in the chat.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
do you have access? Are you on your phone or your computer?
Computer. Uh-huh.
So if you go to the chat,
Uh-huh. It's in there.
yeah, and you can just copy paste it.
Okay. And then my question is, how can we get rid of flower pots?
Oh,
I mean, why do they keep making flower pots that are not recyclable by the billion?
The ones that they use to like germinate and just start like the starter plants.
Yeah, well, just all plastic, because the city of Minneapolis won't recycle anything that's black plastic, and some of the takeout food things too. So how can we get rid of that? How can we ban that in the United States and have something that's either compostable or, recyclable or sustainable in a better way?
pressure the companies.
Yeah, you got to pressure the companies, but at the same time, you've got it's something it's a state thing. It's a state level thing.
Yeah.
And one thing that I will say is there is a very strong lobbyist in that spends a lot of time at the different state capitals across the entire country. And they work for these large companies like, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, all these different places. And they, each one of these large groups will pay like $500,000 to $1 million a year to this lobbyist group so that they will come out to the Capitol on a regular basis and fight for their rights to be able to continue to make this stuff. It would really be about pressuring our legislators to say enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to support it anymore, and you guys need to find another way. We have other options. I mean, you can get compostable Ziploc bags right now.
Right, exactly.
You don't
exactly. Yeah.
Well,
we should do a flower pot collection drive and get like 1 million of them in a trailer and take them over to the Capitol.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get all of the gardeners together, all the people who like to garden, and just do a massive drop off and bring it over to the Capitol, let them see that. Like this is something, and this is just this year. Imagine how many years.
Yeah.
And how many people didn't drop their stuff off.
Right.
And global.
Well, welcome, Alex and Patty. Patty, are you finishing your dinner?
Hello.
Hi, Alex. Welcome. So we'll get started in a minute. Let Patty kind of swallow her dinner. We'll just do some quick intros. And I think we can each do a quick intro. My name is Kyle Samajima, and I live in the Northfield neighborhood in South Minneapolis. I am the executive director of Minneapolis Climate Action, a nonprofit focused on climate organizing in our city. And I'm in a coalition of various organizations that are doing some outreach on the integrated resource plan from Excel. In hopes that we can make it more equitable and climate friendly. Christelle and I were just part of a very cool event on Sunday called the People's Movement Assembly. And while there was a bigger crowd here last week, one of the facilitators was talking about the power of 5. And if we just talk to like 5 people about these issues and they talk to 5 people, like that can just be so powerful. So I just want to thank everybody for being here, and then I'll pick the next person to introduce themselves, and then you can pick the next one. Go ahead, Christelle.
Yes, so yes, again, my name is Christelle Porter. I am the founder and executive director of MN Renewable Now, which is a renewable energy nonprofit that's located in North Minneapolis. We focus on connecting people to the renewable energy resources, energy efficiency resources, and then just familiarization and education around renewable energy, why we need it, and why we need to pressure our leaders to start moving in that direction, and also making it available for people that live in underserved communities. So I'm really, really happy to be a part of this discussion. We've been working on this for a better part of a year around the IRP, and we're not the experts in this. We're learning just like everybody else, but it would be wrong for us to be in the learning process and getting close to this deadline and not be able to share it with the wider community, because this is something that everybody should know about and be able to have weigh in, because it's going to affect us for a very long time. And I would like to pass it to Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm from the Northeastern newspaper. I'm doing a story on the community solar gardens going up in the first ward. I sat in on a Zoom meeting the other day, and Kyle mentioned that this was going on. I thought that it sounded like something that could inform the story a little bit further. And if not, it just seems like something that it's important more people know about. So I wanted to come in here, listen in on what you guys were talking about today.
Yeah, I thought I recognized your name, Alex. Sorry to interrupt. And it will definitely align with community solar story. So you'll hear more about that.
Excellent. Thank you. Oh, I'm picking somebody else, aren't I? Catherine, you're next to me on the little Zoom screen, so I
Am
choose.
I? Lucky me. Hi, I'm Catherine Lundqvist, and I'm sort of a climate ambassador here in Linden Hills, and try to be pretty active at the level we can be right now. But really my role, as I see it, in addition to being part of the Linden Hills community partner, is I'm also very active in the Isaiah organization. I don't know if how many are familiar with that. We just had a summit this last weekend on Sunday here. So I'm looking at working with climate and global issues through the faith lens, if you will, being on the Isaiah task force. And I was just sharing with Kylie before we all got on that I have contracted to have solar put on my home in the coming months here. And I work with a lot of underserved communities as well in my work. So the whole thing about climate impacting those who are not quite as fortunate as probably most of us on this panel tonight. I'll leave it at that. And I will choose, let's see, I'm sorry. John, did you go yet?
No. I can go.
Okay, you're next.
I've been part of the Linden Hills, I live in Linden Hills, the Environment and Sustainability Council committee. And from that, I was one of the founders with 4 other neighborhoods of the Lake Harriet Environment Council, which is more about lake quality and keeping it natural as possible. More recently, and some of you may know Connie Peppin, I
Yes.
work closely with Connie on what is called Friends of Minneapolis Wildlife and Friends of the Roberts Bird Sanctuary. And we're becoming part of a really exciting statewide group that is called the Legacy of Nature. And we're gathering about, we've got about 15 statewide environment groups, and most of it's about conserving natural habitat and birds and bees and flowers and, you know, pollinators. And there's $25 million at the state level to protect nature. And it's been misappropriated to building playgrounds basically and parking lots. And we're reclaiming it through the legislature. So it's a gradual thing. We're building numbers to do that. We've made some progress legislatively. Personally, Catherine may be interested. About 4 years ago, I rebuilt the home I grew up in Minneapolis, in Linden Hills. And it's a smaller home than I grew up in, but I put 34 solar panels on it that I was only able to do because I got into that lottery with the state of Minnesota before they stopped it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think I shared it another time, is this past year was so sunny. The state has to pay me $2,500 in June for using my system.
That's
I
so
wish they were still doing that because people would jump on it in a minute. They got rid of it a couple of years ago. And so everything solar means something to me. And I'll finish with this real quick. A friend of mine wrote a book that's on Amazon called, Whole Earth Justice. And we approached it as friends more from I don't know how to say this. You said faith, Catherine. We're going to start a group over at his church, was the St. Paul Episcopal Church on the north side of Lake of the Isles. And we're going to have what we'd call an ecological spiritual group.
Yeah.
And we're just going to start that as soon as people can meet together. So
good for you. Yeah. Are you familiar with Isaiah?
You know, I'm not. I've heard of it, but you'd have to tell me what it is, because I don't know.
On your own time, just Google it.
Okay, well,
check into it. So it's about justice. It's about, universal justice, food justice, climate justice, racial justice, all that kind of stuff that we bring to the legislature.
Yeah, no, it's
Isaiah's in a lot of coalitions.
Correct.
That I know. Yeah.
And you may want to join up with our Lona group, Catherine.
Why don't you, I'll make sure I get your info or send me something, and I'll work with you. And I'm going to be at the link meeting, this next link meeting, talking about my Section 8 introduction to Linden Hills. We could connect maybe there or whatever, but track me down.
Okay, I will. And Lee, I think I'm getting long-winded. You go ahead. I can see.
Well, or that's the beauty of these calls, where you get to know others who you could have some connections with. Which was, we had something like that on at the same event last Wednesday, and but yes, my name is Lee, and I'm with the organization called Community Power, and I've organized lots of community education events on the energy utility system, including a few in Linden Hills. And Community Power, we got started as a campaign to consider municipalization in Minneapolis as a strategy to drive a hard bargain with Xcel Energy in meeting the city's climate and clean energy goals. And I feel like I should have made some more invites for the event here. I did put it in my newsletter, but I do plan on doing some more events in the future on the IRP or 15-year energy plan. And and I also went to the People's Movement Assembly. And let's see, Patty, have you gone?
No, I haven't. My name is Patty O'Keefe. I use she, her pronouns. I am an organizer at the Sierra Club and have been working on pushing Excel on this plan for the last couple years now. And yeah, I'm excited to be with everybody tonight. And let's see, Laura, have you gone yet?
Nope. Arlie Moffett. I don't have a lofty title or I am a citizen. I won't be a consumer of Excel Energy. And just really interested in what we can do, what we can say, how we can say it. So thank you for letting me be here tonight.
Just a lofty human being.
All right, and then maybe the person with the 703 in their number. Do you want to give a quick intro of your name and what brought you here tonight?
I don't see that.
Well, Pat, that 9221, that's not anybody here. Oh, Christelle, is that?
Oh, that's me. That's I'm Abdul Bihi from the Somali community in Cedar Riverside, and I was invited to come to the meeting.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome. We are glad
Thank you.
You are so welcome. We're glad you're here.
I'm so glad you're
Thank you.
here. This is Christelle. I'm so glad you joined.
Thank you for inviting me. Hi, Zaya.
No problem.
Cool. Well, I'm happy to jump into the presentation portion of the call. Does that sound good to you two? Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. See my email for a second. Let's see. Okay. All right. Can folks see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So I need to leave at 7:30, so I am going to be going through this. Well, not super fast. It's about a half an hour long presentation. There is going to be time at the end, I think, for questions, and Kyle and Christelle and Lee and on the call and others know, I think, a lot in depth about this issue. And so I would say if you have some questions that come up during the presentation, please feel free to interrupt me and to just jump in and ask the question, but also know that there will be some time at the end to get into some of that.
And you can also put the questions in the chat. Sorry, Patty, maybe you were going to say that.
No, that's great. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate
also,
that.
If you do have to run and you still have some slides left, I mean, Christelle, Lee, I mean, we can totally finish off the slides for you. So don't feel like you have to rush to get through, because we could, I mean, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I can't see the chat, so if there are questions that come up, Kyle, would you be able to either kind of field them or jump in if it's something that folks want to ask me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so this presentation is called Electric Justice. Xcel Energy is enacting environmental racism, and here's what we can do about it. So this presentation is going to be mostly focused on Xcel's plans for where they're going to be getting their energy from in the next 15 years, and also focused on why the current way that they provide energy and how they're planning to provide energy in the future actually perpetuates a lot of systemic inequalities and racial injustice. This is kind of an interesting presentation to give, because Excel's reputation in the community, in here in the Twin Cities and just in Minnesota broadly, is fairly, I would say, neutral to good. I think that a lot of people see the commitments that they are making around doing more clean energy and kind of are starting to see Excel as more of like a clean energy utility, and they're one of the good ones. But that is not the full story, and there's a lot more to kind of what they are doing and the reasons why they're doing it. And so this presentation is just going to shed some more light on that, and we'll tell you about kind of how to get involved in pushing them to have a better plan. So first, I'm going to start with just a quick energy 101 to get a sense of like how the energy system works, to kind of understand the current context we are living in. So when we turn on a light or plug in our phone charger or our toaster, the energy that powers it is being delivered through a large system called the electricity grid. And since the Industrial Revolution, the way that we have gotten our energy has looked a lot like this image, where there is usually a power plant in one place that is producing a ton of energy. And then that energy is transported through transmission lines, like the big steel high voltage transmission lines that you see when you drive outside of the cities, and then to the smaller distribution lines that you see when the energy gets to a smaller town or city. And then that energy is transferred into our homes and businesses. And I should say that there's also a step before this process too, before the power plant, where the fuel is extracted, usually from underground, like coal or oil, and is transported to the facility in which it is processed and turned into electricity. And I feel like that is a pretty important thing to mention, just because that is where a lot of pollution and poisoning happens of communities that are in close proximity to that extraction. So this system is starting to change as we transition to a clean energy system. So instead of digging up coal and gas and oil from underground, we are switching to technologies that get their power from the sky and the wind. Instead of having these massive big power plants producing a ton of energy in one place, we are moving to more of a decentralized and dispersed system, where we have a lot of solar and wind kind of all over the place to take advantage of where it's sunny and where it's windy. And so this is very much we are in a massive transition of one of the largest sectors of our economy right now. And the decisions that we make today about which resources we're investing in are going to have a really big impact on what the future of our energy system and the future of our climate looks like. So where do we get most of our energy from in Minnesota? And if folks want to type this in the chat, you could do that. Where do you think we get most of our energy from? What types of sources? And I can't read them. Kyle, would you be willing to read out some from the chat?
You're on mute.
All right, yep. Natural gas, nuclear is 24% of Excel's energy, coal, trash burning, Anyone else want to throw in a guess or a no?
Hydro? Any hydro?
Hmm,
No?
we'll find out. That's a good question, Catherine.
Awesome.
Alex also wondered about hydroelectric, wind.
So awesome. Thanks. I think all of those are right. So energy in Minnesota, this you can look at this pie chart to see kind of where we're, and this is just actually, sorry, for Xcel Energy, which is the largest provider of energy in Minnesota, but there are also a lot of other utilities, but Xcel is the largest. And so as you can see, we get a little under a quarter from natural gas, or as we've been calling it, fossil gas, since it's a fossil fuel. About the same amount, just under a quarter from coal, a little bit more than a quarter from nuclear, around 20% from wind, a smaller sliver, probably about 5%, 5 to 8% from solar. And then there's a section there too for other renewables, which includes things like small scale hydroelectric, and I think also large scale hydro, because I think we get some of our energy from Manitoba Hydro up in Canada. And then it also includes some things that are not renewable at all, like was mentioned, trash burning. Xcel has 3 contracts set up with 3 different trash burning facilities, and that is currently under state statute included under the definition of clean energy, even though it is absolutely 100% not clean energy, and is a polluting source of fuel. So why is energy a justice issue? So I think a lot of people are starting to realize and make the connections that a lot of environmental issues can be justice issues, that climate change is a justice issue, because the environmental burdens and climate burdens do not affect everyone equally. They affect people of color and low income people much more adversely. And I think people are now starting to realize that energy is really tied in with this too, and is also a justice issue. And the reason for that is because, well, these 3 core reasons. One, because of pollution, because chemicals that are emitted during the extraction, transportation, processing, and eventual use of fossil fuels, say in the home, even for heating and cooking, disproportionately harm people of color and low-income communities in terms of health impacts, and proximity to communities' proximity to the actual extraction and processing. Second is energy burden. So people of color and low-income communities pay a larger percentage of their income on energy than white people and higher income people. And these communities are also more likely to live in older housing stock, and so houses and apartments that are less efficient, which then costs more money, kind of fuels that cycle. And then climate change, impacts of climate change, like destruction from extreme weather, people being displaced from their homes, food and water shortages, and resulting political instability affect communities of color and low-income communities worse. And then, sorry, I just forgot to say on the energy burden one that people of color and low-income people are do not get as much services in terms of energy efficiency and conservation services as do white folks and higher income folks. So all of these things make energy very much a justice issue and a human rights issue. So what is Xcel's role in all of this? Well, to put it very simply, to oversimplify it, maybe, Xcel is the entity that builds and maintains all of our energy, or most of our energy infrastructure. So when we pay an energy bill, the money that we are paying on it goes towards building power plants and maintaining power plants and maintaining the grid and the transmission lines and wires that connect it all together. So they're the ones that build it, and we are the ones that pay for it. And not only are we just paying for the infrastructure and the maintenance itself, we are also paying the utility back with interest, because corporations like Xcel, corporate utilities, are allowed a guaranteed rate of return when they build big things like power plants and even, you know, wind or solar farms or transmission lines. And Xcel's rate of return, I believe, is around 10%. So we are paying them back for the cost of all this, plus 10% of interest, and that interest is going straight to Xcel shareholders and investors. So that's why that we as customers who are paying for all of this stuff need to hold them accountable for the decisions that they are making, because it is us who is on not only paying for this stuff, but is also on the hook for these investments if, say, they become a bad investment and end up costing us more money than is planned. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a bit. So Xcel's integrated resource plan, what is it? So we've been at the Sierra Club actually calling it Xcel's 15-year climate and energy plan, because we think that makes more sense than integrated resource plan, because it's kind of a long and technical and boring name. And yeah, simply put, it is a 15-year energy forecast for how much energy Xcel needs and where they are going to be sourcing it from coal, gas, nuclear, solar, wind, other renewables, and also a plan for how they're going to keep it affordable and how much it's going to cost for their customers. So big investor-owned utilities like Xcel, like Minnesota Power up in Duluth, like Otter Tail Power over in Western Minnesota, need to provide these big plans to their regulators, the Public Utilities Commission, every 2 to 3 years. They have to come and put forward and say, okay, this is our plan. This is, you know, how we're going to be getting energy to people. And this is how we're not going to be exploiting our customers to do it. And so this year's integrated resource plan from Xcel is being said to be the Super Bowl of IRPs. And the reason for that being is because the next 15 years are crucial time for us being able to, one, decarbonize, so lower carbon emissions from every sector of the economy. We really need to make big moves in terms of moving off fossil fuels in the next 7 years, but it's even more so in the next 15 years. And then also by 2035, 14 years from now, over 70% of Minnesota's plant infrastructure, so our coal plants, nuclear plants, gas plants, all our existing big plants are going to be up for retirement. They're going to be aging out. So we're going to have this big question about, as these plants are starting to shut down, what are we going to be replacing that energy with? Are we going to be replacing it with more fossil fuels that continue to contribute to the climate crisis? Or are we going to be investing in renewables and a more distributed and kind of modernized energy system? So now I'm just going to go through a synopsis of the plan, kind of what's in the plan, what are some of the good things, and then what are some of the big issues. So the good is that Xcel did set a goal last year, or actually I believe it was in 2019. Last year was a total blur, of hitting 100% carbon-free energy by 2050. They are the only utility in the country to make a goal, 100% goal, this aggressive. Though, the science is telling us that we need that to be a lot sooner than 2050. And they are also proposing things in the plan that would make it impossible for them to actually reach that goal. And the main thing there is the massive gas plant that they want to build.
Hey, Patty.
Yeah.
There are a couple quick questions. One is, John's wondering how many methane releasing companies exist in Minnesota? Are they in Xcel Energy areas?
That is a good question. It's either, I forget how many existing gas plants we have in the state. I have it written down somewhere. I think it's between 15 and 20 existing gas plants. And there are, there are quite a few actually in I would say most of them are in Xcel territory. But I can get a confirmation on that and send out the answer.
And also one other quick one, does the Mississippi Lock and Dam provide any hydroelectric?
Yeah, I believe it does.
Oh,
But I don't know how much and I don't know where it goes to, but yeah, it does. It's a hydroelectric water park. And so that is probably part of Xcel's energy mix as well. I think it would be considered small scale hydroelectric. Okay, awesome. So they also are committing to doing a lot more renewables like wind and solar. And then they are also committing to do more energy efficiency. And those are all good things. Like we want them to do a lot more of that, a lot less of what they are currently doing now. So they're making some steps in the right direction, but they are also doing a lot of things that essentially kind of cancel out the good things that they are doing. So I'm going to go into that quick. The first thing is that they are planning to build a big fracked or fossil gas plant in central Minnesota. And it would cost about 100 billion, sorry, not that much. It would cost about $1 billion for the plant and to build an accompanying pipeline in central Minnesota. This plant, if it is built, would emit the equivalent of 3 million metric tons of carbon per year, which is, I think, right around where our existing gas plants, all of our existing gas plants in the state combined emit annually now. So it would be pretty much doubling our carbon emissions from gas. And the Sierra Club has done analysis that has shown that if we, instead of building the gas plant, built wind and solar over the lifetime of the plant, so over, about 20 years, it would save customers between $200 to $300 million. So really from a climate perspective, this is just, it's unacceptable. We are in a climate crisis. We cannot be building any more fossil fuel infrastructure in a climate crisis. The first problem when you realize you are in a hole is to stop digging. And this would just be digging our hole deeper. And also from a environmental justice perspective, plants like this, gas plants, are more likely to be built in proximity to low-income communities, to communities of color.
right.
The pollution from the plants and the resulting climate change disproportionately impacts people of color and low-income communities. And also the extraction where the gas is fracked also contributes to pollution for communities. So all around, both from an environmental justice perspective and a climate perspective, it's not good news. And then also from an economic perspective, the cost of renewables is coming down and keeps coming down and is projected to keep coming down as it's a technology. And the cost of gas is projected over the next 10 to 15 years to go up. So we also think that this is just a bad investment, and that it would end up costing Xcel customers more than it needs to. And the real frustrating piece of this is that if the plant gets shut down early, say because of climate reasons, or say because of economic reasons, because renewables have gotten much, much more economical, which they are projected to, then we would still be on the hook for paying for this plant, even if it shuts down early. Not Xcel shareholders, not Xcel, the company itself, we, the customers, would be responsible for paying off this bad investment, which is absolutely ludicrous and not okay.
And the political, the political reality is the investors are the ones who make all the money out of all the profit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Patty, Lee would like to see some of the citations of the Sierra Club study to use for IRP commenting. And Christelle asked when they're planning to build it, but Lee was saying starting operation in 2027, supposedly, unless we stop it. And then I asked, is 2050 like soon enough to stop using fossil fuels? I mean, that was a rhetorical question because I don't think it's soon enough, but and then John asked if there is a united centralized group fighting the 2027 plant and the pipeline in central Minnesota.
Okay, great. So, well, I'll just say, yes, Kyle, I completely agree. The science is telling us that we need to be 100% clean energy by 2030. So 2050 is too far out of a goal for sure. And so we need to be pushing them to be coming up with commitments that are actually in line with the science, especially since Xcel Energy is on the leading edge. Other utilities are going to follow what Xcel does. So it's really important that people here are pushing Xcel to have the most aggressive and best plan possible, because it's going to set an industry standard. And John, to your question about, is there a group fighting back against the gas plant? Yes. There's a lot of groups fighting back against the gas plant. A lot of that is being done through this integrated resource plan, and pushing on Xcel and pushing on the Public Utilities Commission to deny the plant. And there is a campaign called the Energy We Can't Afford campaign. That is a coalition of a bunch of environmental and climate organizations. And that campaign is focused on pushing back against gas plant proposals across the state. So both the plant in Becker, Minnesota and central Minnesota, and there's a plant also being proposed in northern Minnesota near Duluth. So the second big issue that we have with the plan is that there is barely any projected community and rooftop solar in the plan. So community solar has really boomed in Minnesota over the last 7-8 years. The Minnesota legislature mandated that Xcel start a community solar program. Since they've started the community solar program, that's where we've seen that's the reason that we've seen a lot of increase in community solar, because a lot of developers and people are coming and starting and building gardens. But Excel has been trying to scale back or even to kill their community solar programs since it's been mandated. And the reason for that is because they do not want to share in any of the profits. They want to own all the wind and solar, all of the clean energy that's built. They want to own and operate it because that's how they make the most money. When you have other developers, other businesses in the mix who are building out the community solar garden or who own it, it takes away some of the profit from Excel. So because of that, they don't want to see as much community solar. So in their plan, in their integrated resource plan proposal, they say they want to build 300 megawatts by 2035, actually, I think, not just 2030, by 2035. That's wrong. And in 2018 alone, 250 megawatts were built. And it's only projected to gain steam from here. So Excel has included, if you are at best incorrect assumptions about how much community solar is going to grow, at worst deliberately faulty projections, so they can continue to have a monopoly on the solar market in the state. So this is a problem because community solar is community and rooftop solar are really important solutions because they give people of color, low income renters more access to solar.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, like, I mean, I was just living in an apartment for the last 6 years, and if I wanted to do solar, I didn't have an option to do that, right, as a renter. But if there was a community solar garden nearby, I could potentially be a solar subscriber to a community solar garden. And there are a lot of solar gardens that end up being a benefit, an economic benefit, and end up saving you on your bill. And everybody should have access to those benefits, not just people who can afford it and who can afford to put the solar on their rooftops. So there's a lot of equity reasons why this is important, and just in general, we should be building out as much solar as possible. We're going to need utility scale solar. We're going to need community solar. We're going to need rooftop solar. We're going to need as many people as possible building out as much solar as possible to hit our targets. We don't want to be trying to keep any of it out. So we want Excel to reflect the true growth potential of community solar in their plan. So I'm almost done here. The last issue is that a lot of the things that they're doing perpetuate environmental racism. So some of those things they are doubling down on pollution by proposing to build this massive gas plant in the state. They have contracts with garbage incinerators, including the Herc garbage incinerator, the Hennepin, the Hennepin something recovery center.
Hennepin Energy Recovery.
Energy.
Yes, thank you. The Hennepin Energy Recovery Center, which has been a glaring example of environmental injustice in the North Minneapolis community for decades, and then also wanting to extend the lives of their nuclear plants. In particular, one of those plants is adjacent to the Prairie Island Indian community. It's called the Prairie Island Nuclear Plant. And the Indian community, or the tribe, is in the process of looking for new lands because of their concern over the proximity to the nuclear plant and another dam that's close to them. So there's that piece. Also, their workforce is 93% white, and in their plan, they say that they want to diversify their workforce and are planning to do that, but they don't have any public commitments or any benchmarks, anything that really says how they're going to get there. Also, their energy efficiency and clean energy programs disproportionately serve their white customers. And when it is their low-income customers, when it's their customers of color that are more likely to be in need of those programs. And then I mentioned the Prairie Island nuclear plant. So really, we need to see Xcel doing more here, because our energy system has been perpetuating and really driving a lot of these inequalities and has been contributing to a racialized public health crisis. And we need to see Xcel and other utilities acknowledge this. We need them to reparate for those past harms. And we need them to make decisions that make the problem better and not worse. And to address systemic inequality in their sector. And we don't see, we do not see enough leadership from them coming on this. So I just wanted to include something about a vision, kind of like, where do we want to go to? I've been talking a lot about what we don't want. This is from an organization called the Climate Justice Alliance, which has created this cool diagram that shows that right now we are really living in an extractive economy that is kind of based in exploitation of workers, of the land, and is also based in consumerism and kind of a colonial mindset, and that we really need to move to a more regenerative economy that's based in cooperation, that is regenerative, that is really valuing ecological and social well-being instead of just wealth and power. And so we think that the ways that we start to do this are to stop the bad things that we're doing, stop investing in in fossil fuels, and to start investing in a more democratic and equitable energy system that helps to decarbonize our economy, but also at the same time starts to address like systemic inequalities. I heard somebody say once that it is not every day, it is not every lifetime where we're having one of the largest sectors of the economy change, like drastically change so quickly. And that if we don't intervene in that, we are not going to, that power dynamics are going to stay the same. And what we really want to do is to make sure that as we're switching to a cleaner and more sustainable economy, that we're also shifting to an economy that values people and all people, and because that's how we're going to survive as a species. So who decides? The Public Utilities Commission is a 5-person commission that essentially decides whether to approve the IRP or whether to approve it with conditions. I didn't say reject because the PUC, I don't believe has ever rejected an integrated resource plan. And there is a lot of critique of this commission and public utilities commissions in general across the US, that they are too sympathetic to corporations and industry, and that is the same here. But I think that we do have a commission that increasingly is starting to, well, just like everyone else, take climate change more seriously, and is starting to realize that we need to be moving in a different direction with our energy system. That doesn't mean that they're going to be making the right decision here around this plan, but these are the people that we really need to put pressure on and influence, because they ultimately are the ones that get to tell Xcel Energy, no, you can't do this, you can't build this plant, you can't, we can't approve this unless you change this. And this body is appointed by the governor, by the way, and there's no more than 3 of one political party allowed on to try and keep it politically balanced. So right now there's 3 Democrats, 1 independent, and 1 Republican. And interestingly enough, the best person on this commission is the independent, for sure, has the most progressive views on energy. So what can you do? You can write a comment on Excel's plan and submit it by April 14th. That is the final comment deadline for the IRP. And there's a lot of ways that you can write this comment. You can send it in by email. You can send it in by snail mail. You can submit it through the Sierra Club's page. You can submit it through other organizational pages, and we can follow up with that. A comment can be really long. It can also be really short. It could be as simple as, I'm an Excel customer and I don't want to see this gas plant built, and I care about equity and I want you to support community solar. And what we're doing here is, when you write this comment, it becomes part of the public record, and it's part of what the Public Utilities Commission, these 5 people, need to read everything that is entered into the public record. They need to read all the comments. So what we are trying to show these 5 people is that there is strong public opposition to more fossil fuels in Minnesota and strong public support for more equitable, clean energy, and that a lot of Minnesotans care about this.
And Patty, just quickly, just so people know, we have a link in the chat to a document that tells you how and where to comment, just so people know they have access to that.
Cool.
And letters to the editor are really helpful also.
Absolutely.
For sure. Letters to the editor. I don't think I have that in here, but I should. They're really, really helpful. Should definitely be.
I know that the 100% campaign has a letter writing tutorial coming up on Thursday.
Cool. Maybe we can send that out. Maybe we can send that out also with the as a follow-up. And I would include that in the spread the word, writing LTEs, asking friends and family to write comments, and helping to just educate other people that this is happening, because it's a lot of people don't know about it, because it's been such a kind of technocratic process that's been really removed from, I think, the public consciousness for a long time. And so anything that you can do to help key people in that this is happening, and it's a big process that's going to affect like the future of our climate in Minnesota, the better. So I will stop there. And I'm sorry that went a little long. I go over with presentations. I apologize for that.
It's okay.
You fit a lot in.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I have to hop off, but
Thank you, Patty, so much for everything you do.
Yeah.
Just amazing how much you have learned from this process, and how much you're able to take all this information and get it out to people in a way where we can understand, and a way that we can actually have a voice. And I just deeply appreciate your work, and I'm so grateful for you.
oh, thanks,
Yeah.
Christelle, so
It's
much.
really accessible, and yeah. And
Good.
makes
Before you go,
Yeah.
Patty, what is your last name?
O'Keefe. O''K''E', F as in Frank, E.
F-E. And you're with the Sierra Club?
I'm with the Sierra Club. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Patty, can we share your slide presentation with people?
Yes, please do.
And I'm glad
Yeah,
to
and I'm
do
gonna
it,
keep.
but I just wanted to make sure it was okay to share it. I can put it in the chat, but
Okay,
you have to
wonderful.
go.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions still?
No, I was wondering if Ms. Potter or you or someone could email me the presentation, because I was on the phone. I was using the phone audio rather than Zoom.
Yes.
So I'll send my my email to Ms. Potter, so she can you please send it
Yes.
to me?
Definitely, Abdi. Yes, send me your email and I will get that to you right away.
I would
Thank you for inviting
also
me.
be interested in getting a copy of the PowerPoint slides too.
Yeah, I'll share it in the chat right now, but we can also email it to whoever needs it emailed.
Yes, and
And-
I think also we can go one step further and make sure that we send that that last link that you put in the chat of where people can go to comment as well. Because I know, Abdi, you've got a really big following. A lot of people follow you and they listen to you. And I know that if you share this with your network, I know that you would get a lot of folks to be able to comment on this as well.
Oh, definitely. And one thing, Sport, I would suggest is that I do Somali radio program that comes out in English every Tuesday at KFAI, and it's got a lot of very diverse audience. And I was wondering if I could invite you to do that presentation. It's a 1 hour every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Yep.
So let me know we have that opportunity. And there is another opportunity which I really am interested is as Asaya, and you know, because you work with the East African community, you know, environmental justice is not well understood in the East African community. So I also have another opportunity where I can invite you a Somali TV program that really comes out to life and has a huge following. And we will be able to translate for you to share that information and educate the community how it impacts them.
Wow.
Yes, that's wonderful. I would love for that to be set up.
Christelle, do you already have his email?
Yeah, we're connected. Actually, we worked on the United Black Legislative Agenda in the past.
Cool.
Yes.
Yes.
'Cause we should also talk to him about community solar outreach.
Yep.
And you know, your program in North, and we should also talk to you about. I'm working on a climate ambassador. Do you know Ukasha Dakane, who runs Freo?
I do.
I know.
No, I don't. I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we're working on a
Oh,
kind of climate ambassador zero waste program together with the East African community in South Minneapolis, and we would love to connect with you too.
Perfect. I think I
your
do
TV
know
show.
Okasha.
You said you do know him?
That's Okasha, right?
Yep.
Yes, I do know him, and I had him on the radio a couple times.
Awesome.
Nice.
And I wanted to say that I have hosted or organized a Q&A forum on climate and energy and Cedar Riverside 4 years ago, and
Okay.
and I'm potentially looking to do another Q&A forum for the city council race that covers Ward 6.
That's cool.
Oh,
And you know what,
perfect.
Christelle, we can also, the city, Abdi will translate the one pager that we have that that Christelle can email to you.
Yeah.
They would probably also translate this PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I will. Yep.
So we can get that to you. And
Yes.
Yes, let's do that. I love that. And let's see if we can get on the radio with him. The more the better that know about this issue.
yeah.
Yeah, because it affects everybody. And that's one of the things that I worry about is, you know, we're able to get people to listen, but at the same time, there's so many folks out there that English is not their first language. And they're also not connected with our network just because we are, you know, connected who we were connected with. So it just would be really powerful coming from you,
Yeah.
Abdi.
And then also,
Yeah,
and Catherine,
thank you.
I know, go ahead, Abdi.
Yeah, I really appreciate Sport, you know, because I wasn't aware of this, and I did run for Ward 6 last year, and I'm thinking about running again. And I myself love to learn more about what the issues are, and not only that, I want to amplify that in terms of language and cultural barriers to the community. So I really appreciate this resource.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, this is exciting to have met you. And there
Oh,
is
I think I know
there
you.
is a Spanish.
What was your last name?
B-I-H-I. B as in book, I-H as in house, I.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, we've connected.
Yeah.
Cool. There is
Awesome.
Spanish speaking, there is a bilingual event on Thursday. And I can put that link in the chat. And then Catherine, I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah. I just had a question, a couple questions real quick, Kyle. Do we know approximately how many people are enrolled in a solar reward program?
That's tough to answer.
Okay.
There's a lot of folks that are, just not enough. And it depends because, we got the solar rewards program for folks that have the solar on their roofs, but we also have, it's kind of the same application that we have to fill out when it comes to a community solar project, which is still looked at differently. But there's quite a bit, but it's not enough. It's nowhere near enough.
Okay. And the reason that I asked that question is because, when I embraced my contract to get my solar, I was subscribing to the, through the neighborhood thing that we started ages ago and whatnot. And the solar company asked me, just because they have to do like the monitoring of our electrical use for X number of weeks or months or whatever prior to the installation. So they asked me to cancel my community solar for the time being. They said I could rejoin later. And when I phoned XL to cancel, they were not very happy about that. They were like, well, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they did cancel it. But being in that program, and I use very little electricity in my home, even though it's a multi-unit home, I still we're very conservative. And so when I was going through all of that, they said, like the one of the people that came here to do to kind of do the evaluation said that I paid less in a whole year in electricity in my units than he paid like in 2 months. Electricity use. So then I was questioning, is this really worth it? But it's not about the monetary, it's about the justice aspect and all the things we've been speaking about. So
that's one of the things that's bothersome, because they put 120% cap
on
return. And so it's like, you could be conservative and then you can be using 100% or getting 100% of what you use, but then only 20% on top of that, and the rest goes back into the grid, which at least you're doing a good service for the community and for the sustainability of our life here on this planet. But they do make it, I think that they do this just to make it more difficult for folks to do this, because they really want to be the ones to control and manage solar.
Right.
And otherwise customers become competitors.
Yeah. And I want the tax credits, and I mean, I'm doing it for all kinds of reasons. So, and then in closing, my final question is, do you know anything about, and hopefully you'll get the general location. So somewhere between like Lakeville and Northfield, or maybe a little south of Northfield there, where they have the acres and acres and acres of solar panels out there in the field. Can you just tell me a tiny bit about that, or who owns that, or if that's a community thing or whatever? I just was curious about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Kyle, do you know?
I don't.
Okay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You know who would know is cooperative. Do you know, Lee? Or I'll bet Timothy from Cooperative Energy Futures would know.
Yeah, if you have a few more details.
Yeah, and I was just curious. I go down to the Mayo Clinic a lot for my work, so I travel that corridor a lot. And, there's just this solar field out there where it looks, I mean, there's just hundreds and hundreds of
Do you have
panels
some,
out there. And I just wondered kind of where, because it's kind of south, but near kind of the hydro area out there by the river and whatnot.
if
So
you have some contact info, I could get you in touch with Timothy.
Yeah, it looks like Northfield Community Solar Gardens LLC is a 5 megawatt. It's in 2300 North Avenue, Northfield, Minnesota. I don't know if this is the same thing, but it might be Northfield Community Solar Gardens, because 5 megawatts is a lot.
That's big.
Okay, that's probably it then, because it's right in that general area. So
Yeah.
I just was kind of curious about it when I drive by there all the time. I'm like, what's this all
Yeah.
about? So thank
Five
you.
I thought there was a
megawatts.
1 megawatt limit.
Yeah,
Huh.
well,
Thank
5
you.
megawatts, that's a big field. That is a big field. So, yeah.
Catherine, if you want to share, I'll put, if other people that and, especially in, the Section 8 connection,
Yeah.
that want to get connected with our community solar garden, because we have pay-as-you-go shares where people don't have to pay anything up front, and it's regardless of income or credit score.
Yeah, well, I intend to rejoin, but as I said, during this process, they wanted me to,
Yep.
and then my neighbors actually on both sides of me now, when I shared with them that I had made the final decision and that I was going to do this, they wanted me to kind of let them know as I process with it how things are going, because they're interested in doing it also.
Well,
So-
times I will say, because I'm working on a rooftop solar project here in North Minneapolis,
Mhm,
we're doing
mhm.
4 roofs right now. And in order for us to bring the cost down, we are doing all 24 at the same time with the same contractor, same electrician. And so if the other 2 are looking into doing it, they might want to do it at the same time, because then whatever contractor they use can order all of the materials and supplies and everything at the same time, and also have the crew out there at the same time as well.
Yes, we
Yeah.
spoke about that, and
Yeah.
they were going to do my project, I think like in March, and now because they can't, I guess there's a huge shortage of the panels, and contractors for installation is a huge obstacle, they
Yeah.
said. So now they've pushed me out to like May already, and they
Yeah.
did say it may be even later than that until they can actually do the installation, which is while we're encouraging people to do it, and more people independently are conscientiously and morally kind of making that decision, it's still a challenge to get it because of all those dynamics.
Yeah. And, and it is very difficult to start the process. And like you said, especially if you're a subscriber to a community solar garden, they do make you unsubscribe. And then also on top of that, you've got to, capture 12 months of energy use from your bill. You have to make sure that you have insurance. You have to do all these things, and these things have to be, you have to have the solar assessment and even the design ready before you do the solar rewards application. So it's a process.
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm pretty organized and I passed all that.
It seems like you are.
so I've been working on it for a while, and I'm
awesome.
really happy. And let's hope also that the government keeps some tangible and some meaningful reward for people doing this as well, because that is an incentive. That isn't the only reason I did it, but it certainly will help.
We have to demand it, right? We have
hopefully with our new administration, we'll start to see more subsidies come down the line, and costs come down as well, along with the subsidies. So
hey, Catherine,
does anyone else have any questions at all before we end? Oh, sorry, Kyle.
That's all right. Well, I'll just say quickly, and then we can, because Catherine, if there is, for people who want to do rooftop solar, if they're not in like the area where Christelle is working. I mean, obviously, you know, if you're in
Yeah.
Christelle's area,
Yeah.
you should be working with MN Renewable now. But there's this Solar United Neighbors, which is basically like a buying club, you know, for solar panels. I put the link in the chat. So if you know people that really want rooftop solar and aren't interested in like community solar or whatever, there's this Solar United Neighbors.
I
Great.
think they have an event on February 9th to tune into.
And it's Solar United what?
Solar United Neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
I did
that-
put
that was
the
it.
link in the chat.
Yeah, great. Okay, great. Okay.
Alex,
And
me and the
they have some sort of a orientation event on February 9th
Okay.
for the Minnesota branch, at least.
Okay.
When that would be applicable. I hope
Thank
it's
you.
listed on there. Yeah.
That's helpful. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I locked in, you know, at what I feel is a good price. And I said, well, if they push it all the way out to June or July for installation and then it costs less, then I'm going to be really mad.
Any other questions before we wrap up here?
No, but thank you.
All right. Well, Alex, Abdi,
We'll be in touch.
Catherine, thank you so much. Keep spreading the word. Reach out to any of our organizations, MN Renewable Now, Minneapolis Climate Action, Community Power, if you have more questions. And
Yeah, watch.
Yeah,
I'm gonna write a
absolutely.
letter. I'm gonna write a letter to the editor, so we'll see if they print it. I'll get that out there and see what
Oh,
else I can
Catherine.
do.
Right. Thank you.
I hope we get to sew pretty soon.
right.
All
Catherine
right.
has sewn a ton of reusable bags for the Boomerang Bags project.
Yes.
Many. She's like the master sewer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Okay, good
Thank you.
night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
Hey, Alex, I guess he left. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.